All right, we are recording.
Coming to you from the sunny shores.
It's all downhill from here, folks.
Honestly, it's just this mental change. The background helps. It really helps. All right. This open meeting of the Triton Regional School Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, and the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. I hereby call to order the September 16th meeting of the Triton Regional School Committee at 7 p.m. I am Narissa Wallen, Chair of the School Committee, and I would like to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. All right. So members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. And I lost my list. There it is. Erin?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Thank you.
Was that any better?
It seems a little better. Hard to tell.
Okay.
It's like it's going in and out. We have no Paul Goldner tonight. Maureen?
Here and I can hear you.
Thank you. Caitlin?
Here and I can hear you.
Thank you. Paul Lees?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Thank you. Linda?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Thank you. And Paul Mayette?
I'm here and I can hear you.
Okay, and Tina is going to be late. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Superintendent Brian Forget.
Here and I can hear you.
Thank you. Assistant Superintendent Kim Croto. Where are you? You're somewhere on my list.
I'm here.
There you
I
are.
can hear
Thank you. School Business Official Kyle Warren.
I'm here and I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you. And Special Education Administrator Dave McGee.
I'm here and I can hear you.
All right, thank you. For this meeting, the Triton School Committee is convening remotely via Zoom using the information posted on the district's website identifying how the public may join. If you are personally attending by video conference using your device's camera, please be aware that others may be able to see you. Committee members and administrators, please remember to mute your computer or phone when you are not speaking. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the district's website with the agenda posting unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. I'll read aloud the district vision statement. We are a community of learners known for our unwavering commitment to meeting the needs of all students. Through the adoption of best practices and our active partnership with families in the wider community who are united in supporting the development of engaged, successful, responsible, resilient learners, students will be well prepared to be ethical, empathetic, and contributing citizens. So thank you for coming tonight, everyone. Paul Goldner will hopefully be popping on at some point. He sends his I totally lost my word there. His apologies, I guess, for being late. And Tina had a conflict with work as well, so she will be late too. So I just wanted to say, after a long day, the first day of school, a huge thank you to everyone who put in the time today. I mean, I think we had said that it was going to be far different from the spring. It was far different from the spring from everyone that I talked to today. Technology issues, you know, from what was happening in the spring where a lot of kids couldn't even connect in some cases, were struggling with getting access to technology, huge difference. There are a few here and there definitely, but by and large, that does not seem to be happening. Teachers were on their remote game today, by and large. Just seeing the games that they had adapted to remote environment and icebreakers and the way that different assignments were coming through was just an immense difference. And then I think just the schedule itself, I had heard this from many parents today, that the hopping on and then hopping off at the elementary school level was just a huge improvement it because it was you get the instructions live, they had a chance to ask questions, they were able to then hop off, they had a clear idea of what needed to be completed and how to complete it and what time that needed to be done by so that they could hop back on. So the expectations were there, and it was a constant kind of do the work, get some follow-up, introduce something new. My youngest was very happy that he learned how to write the letter L in cursive today. So there was even some new work being taken on the first day of school just to get them hooked in, I think. So obviously still some work to be done. I know I had taken some concerns that I'd heard from just various parents and kind of funneled them through to Brian so that he was aware of them, as time was going on. But it was, I think overall, a good reception to the day. I also wanted to give a shout out too, because I know a lot of people who had taken the meals for the first time today, who hadn't taken them earlier in the springtime and over the summer, and who were just bowled over by the meals that they received today. So that was also a tremendous thing to hear today, as well as the day went on. So thank you to everyone that was involved in that. And I would be remiss if I did not mention IT, because I think I was probably not in the minority of people on this call who held their breath at about 8:30 this morning and prayed that social media was not going to blow up. And IT, man, when I heard that they were testing, I was like, okay, good, let's get this down. We don't want systems crashing. We don't want internet access crashing. And it stayed, it held, and it held well. So that in itself, just supporting that number of teachers from that many different classrooms, supporting students in the building that were, attending in person, but Zooming or meeting into the live meetings, that is just a phenomenal undertaking on their part. So kudos to all of them for the work that they've done. That said, I'm going to move straight on to oral communications from the public. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Members of the public, the meeting host muted you as you entered the meeting. If you would like to address the committee, please indicate now that you would like to do so, either by raising your hand on your video call or using the raise hand option on the participant screen. The meeting host will unmute you so that you can address the committee. Please refer to the public comment policy language on the agenda when making your comments, and remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. When you have finished speaking, the meeting host will mute you again, and I'll just read aloud real quick the statement on the agenda. Members of the public may address the committee for up to 3 minutes, longer with the permission of the chairperson. The committee will not engage in a discussion on topics raised during public comment, but may choose to add the topic to a future agenda. This agenda segment will be limited to 15 minutes unless extended at the discretion of the chairperson. So that said, is there anyone who would like to address the committee? You can either flip on your video and give us a wave or access that raise hand option in the participant screen. Okay, seeing none, I am going to move on to the consent agenda. And I'm going to read aloud there's a lot of minutes to approve here, but I'm going to read aloud the donation, which was a big one. I think they all went to our houses over the space of the last week. To receive a donation from the Institution for Savings for 2,400 cloth grocery bags for use in sharing materials with students during orientation days on September 14th and 15th. So thank you to the Institution for Savings for donating those cloth bags, which went out with all of the massive amount of materials that transitioned from the schools into the students' hands earlier this week. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
I'll make a motion.
Linda?
Second.
Thank you. Maureen? All right. Any discussion? All right, and I need a roll call vote, please. Erin?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Goldner's not on. Maureen?
Yes.
Thank you. Caitlin?
Yes.
Thank you. Paulise?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Mayette?
Yes.
All right, and I'm a yes as well. So thank you for that. Moving on to item 5, which is new business. Is there any new business that the committee would like to raise? All right, seeing none, moving on to reports and deliberations. And I will send it on over to the superintendent to update us on personnel.
Yep. So the only document that's in there is the standard monthly personnel report that shows new hires to the district and those that have left the employee of the district. So certainly if there are any questions on that. I failed to put on the agenda just to kind of an update, a status quo of where we're at as of today, the first day of school. So I'd love to just give you a couple high points. Narissa took several of them, but I think that, the key point is it was from all that I've heard, certainly there were glitches, technology, there were small glitches here and there, but they were small glitches. It was sporadic. It was not for the entire day. I've heard from parents about students were engaged. They were, that concept that Narissa was speaking about how different it was than the spring where students were engaged all day. Excited to see teachers, excited to go back and re-engage tomorrow. So there's still a great deal of anxiety for families. There's still a great deal of anxiety for teachers that this is very much outside the comfort zone when we're in a relational business. And so it's still odd to have students sitting across the screen rather than with them in the same room. So it is still going to be a work in progress, but a huge thank you to educators, to instructional assistants, to IT staff, to the food services folks, so everyone. And this has been a summer like no other in preparing for this. And so I don't know about just a sleepless night, but I mean sleepless nights and weeks and months just anticipating that this day would start well. And I've been thrilled by the response so far. So certainly each day, fix things that didn't go well, and that's going to be tweaking from my role on down through every role across the district. But as someone mentioned, Narissa mentioned, there's the creativity that the teachers have used in finding a way to start off the year well with kids. So a huge thank you to everyone. I do want to note, Narissa did mention meals. So for this week, or to start off, I should say, so meals are free for all students through December 31st of 2020. So we have a waiver, which means any student, regardless of whether they would or would not qualify, and actually don't even need to be a student, anyone from 0 to 18, pretty sure newborns are not eating school meals, but technically it's 0 to age 18 qualifies for free meals through December 31st. So again, Lucinda, as she showed to us in the spring, jumped right into action. So this week had pickups at all the locations this morning for meals for today, tomorrow, and Friday. Effective Monday, we will have buses delivering. A big thank you to NRT. You remember we talked about the fact that we are keeping all of our buses under contract, and so they have reduced all the rates to 78% for any of the runs that are not running. They've agreed to do all the meal deliveries on Mondays for that 78% rate, not charging us a full amount because it is just a morning run. So that continues to be a good partnership. Again, there was a question asked. Yes, if we weren't transporting, we could walk away, but at the end of the day, it's about maintaining that relationship and continuing to keep all of our drivers employed. And if and when we need transportation, they're there and ready to go. So, so as of Monday, parents have the option to not only do curbside pickup, but also there will be, similar to last year, there'll be bus routes that will be established based on demand. So parents, the one key point in that survey, so again, pointing people back to the survey, it's its own tab on the Stay Connected page. All parents need to do, parents and guardians need to do is fill out that survey. We are asking for parent first and last name and email just in case we need to communicate. But it's just a number of meals that they need, and then we're taking care of the rest. So it's important that people do fill out that survey, and so just to make sure that people do see that and go there. If anyone asks, we'll continue to remind everyone. But people don't need to, if they're going to go for curbside pickup, they can choose the location. So at the middle school, high school campus, if it's from 7:30 to 9:30 a.m. And 7:30 works, and they're coming from Raleigh, Newbury, or Salisbury, and they have a kindergarten or a third grader, they can still choose to pick up the meals at the regional campus if that time slot works. So we're going to continue to work out kinks here and there, but as of Monday, we will be doing both the curbside pickup and delivery across all 3 towns. So huge thank you to all the food service folks for their continued creativity. All the adjectives, I'm running out of adjectives to describe them because they just have been so wonderful throughout this process. So orientation, also wanted to note, we mentioned the bags from the Institution for Savings gave us 2,400 of those cloth grocery bags. Actually, if you saw a video circulating from VTV on social media, you got to see, I think it was an entire gym full of those bags. So it was certainly a large effort for everyone involved, but again, heard from a lot of people who it wasn't ideal, right? Parents, teachers, it wasn't what we wanted. We wanted kids in buildings, but to be able to bring in at the elementary level, students bring in 7th and 9th graders, and then have the curbside, check-in and materials delivery at 8, 10, 11, and 12th grade. So it went well. Again, it was a quick connection, and it made a difference. I mean, a lot of connections were made. So super appreciative to everyone that put a lot of time and effort in organizing, administration, staff that planned the logistics of making that all work. So that was a success. HVAC update, just a quick update, continuing the process. Won't give you a lot of details other than to say repairs are ongoing, mostly wrapped up this week. Some at NES may linger into next week. Moving on to remetering those spaces that we knew there were issues that after the first round, looking to have a report to us by the end of next week so that we can spend our weekend next weekend reviewing it, Kyle and I nodding heads, and then get it to you the following Monday, which is the Monday the 28th for the meeting on the 30th, as that is one of the indicators. Obviously, it's an important point, but it's also one of the indicators that you included in the metric for reopening. So we would have that to you to review by Monday, so that could be part of the discussion on Wednesday the 30th. Cleaning routines, had a lot of discussion about enhanced cleaning protocols, continuing to develop those, finalize those. Now it's inserting, making sure we have MSDS sheets for all the products we're using, the foggers and all that. So that will be shared soon as well. But we are, just to confirm, buildings are being disinfected every night. The routine cleaning is happening, as well as we have the fogging, the electrostatic foggers in play. And so those are all high traffic, high contact areas are being disinfected every night on a routine basis. Buildings are being cleared out relatively soon after school ends so that the custodial staff can make sure that they have the building, that we can give them the ample time to not only clean the building, but also make sure that it's disinfected. So a huge shout out to the custodians who did yeoman's work this summer, dealing with repairs to HVAC and also getting buildings ready for the normal routine, but also adding on this layer of disinfecting. So also want to note, so one of the things you'll see in those protocols is an all hands on deck approach. So we have a lot, I don't know the number, Kyle could tell you the number of cases of disinfecting they're designed to be hand wipes, but they're disinfecting alcohol wipes. So that those are prevalent in classrooms at the high school level. When students are coming in, as we shift to hybrid, as students are coming into a class, they'll take one, wipe the desk down, they'll take another one as they're leaving. But working with staff to encourage them, if you've got them in the room, just grab one, wipe the door handle as you're going out, wipe the desk off, wipe the light switch. So it's this kind of, it takes a village approach so that we're keeping it relatively clean through the day. And that way then when the custodians come through and do their routine cleaning as well as that enhanced disinfecting, we're making sure that the buildings are as clean as they can possibly be. So just want to give you that brief update, more on that coming. Contact tracing, just a very brief update to tell you that list continues to grow. I believe it was with DCC that we had that discussion, that I don't know the exact number, but it's 15 plus that are now on that list of volunteer tracers. And so that is a very good thing, so that if and when that happens and we need to have tracers, we've got them readily available. Many parents or connections with the district based on that request we had to reach out to Deb Rogers. So Deb Rogers is coordinating with Jack Morris in Salisbury and Frank in Rowley. And so that will be a regional approach with those tracers so that we are prepared. And then just to let you know, we're now shifting. this is kind of been this week is we always knew we have to be ready, right? Everyone's coming back. We have, call it roughly 200 students in the building, high need students. We knew we'd be ready this week, and now we're shifting our focus to the next possible change, which is into hybrid. So that is where our time and energy is moving to now. Looking at the remote, we're going to start to call it the remote academy, because that's what everyone calls it. It's so much cooler than the remote option. So that remote academy, which is those parents who would elect to keep their family or their students remote, even when we shift to hybrid or any in person. So that is where the time and energy is shifting to now. Certainly there's things we'll have to continue to tweak in regards to the current situation, but as we look to that shift potentially on October 13th to hybrid, starting to work through those details about exactly what that looks like, figuring out transportation, that remote option, and exactly the changes that would happen from when everyone is remote to when we are hybrid and we have a shift of both students in the building as well as at home learning. So that's it for updates. So I don't know if there's any questions on any of those, or any questions about the opening or anything you've heard or seen or what have
Questions,
you.
Linda?
Sorry, he's trying to.
Oh, we lost your audio. Linda? Can you, I don't know if you want to unmute or remute and unmute and see if that helps you. We just lost you. Your audio is totally gone. I can see your lips moving.
All right, I think I'm back
There.
now.
There you are.
There we go.
Has there been any more information on testing sites?
There is nothing
more
new.
local?
So did we meet last week? I think we met last week. I think when did we meet yesterday? The last conversation I've had with Gary at Anna Jake's is stands. There's no new information. So we cannot get a standing order. The key is the order for getting the test. That has to be, you can't drive up without an appointment and a referral, an order from a PCP. So we looked into potentially figuring out a way to get a standing order like we do for EpiPens, and that is not possible. So that would have streamlined the process of helping families go right to, if we had the standing order, we could literally help them schedule an appointment and drive right there. So that won't happen. And then the testing timelines, the return still is in that 3 to 4 day range when I last spoke with him in regards to Anna Jake's.
Have you checked with him recently, Brian? Because Convenient MD came down, and I was going to call Anna Jakes and just haven't had a chance because I've been trying to get my own kids ready to start school. That's been.
I have not this week. I can reach back out to him and check. But I haven't heard.
So Convenient MD was 2 to 5 days as of last Thursday, I want to say.
Okay.
I can't remember what day of the week it was. They're all sort of blending together at this point.
Yes, they are. Yep, I will check.
So, and Anna Jakes has typically been shorter than Convenient
yeah.
MD.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do we have a list of sites locally that test children under 12?
I mean, there's only a handful of them. So it's Convenient, and as far as the ones that fall in the region that we defined in the metrics, it's Convenient MD and Anna Jakes are the only two.
Okay.
So, and then if you look out a little bit farther, you get to AFC in Beverly, Leahy and Danvers, and then from there, Holy Family in Haverhill. And then from there, you're starting to get into the Stop the Spread sites in Salem, Lynn, Lowell, and Lawrence.
Okay. And just one other question about masks. How were the kids, the younger kids and everybody about wearing masks today?
So it's just the high priority students who are in. So it's a small number of students. By and large, every student I saw as I walked around, primarily the middle school, high school campus, had masks on, staff had masks on. Definitely the reports from the elementaries are kids stayed masked. There definitely were a few, specifically those that are, I would say based on their disability, it was very challenging to wear a mask. So some confusion about some who had a note and didn't have it on file that gave them an exclusion from wearing masks, or those who just, it was a challenge. So a couple hiccups, but by and large, everyone did a great job of wearing masks. Yeah. And we've done, so that will be part of the handbook sign off, is the mask policy. You see it's now in the handbook. And so that will be for families. Staff have all done, we've done a hello sign, which is basically like a DocuSign process, so that every staff member has signed off or in the process of signing off, only a couple left, to confirm that they've received and understand the policy. So.
Okay, that's all the questions that I have.
All right. Thanks, Linda. Anybody else? Any other questions for the superintendent? All right, seeing none, I think we can move along, which brings us straight to student handbooks. So that's a great segue. Every year we have to approve the student handbooks because technically they're policy, which falls under the school committee. Traditionally, we're doing this at the end of August, but due to the fact that we were still approving policies as of last week, because we needed updated ones for the pandemic, it was impossible to meet that, that traditional schedule that we have. You should have all received the 5 different handbooks, one of them for each of the elementary schools, one for the middle school, and one for the high school. There are obviously some pandemic related changes that are included in those handbooks. So that said, I'm going to open it up for comments or questions. I had actually already sent a number of them to the superintendent last week because I had a list. Couple of pages. So all of those, I believe, were in the latest versions of the handbooks that just came out to the committee. And they were, a lot of it was date changes and concerns about things that have changed significantly, but were still included in the handbook based on, you know, kind of previous procedures. So things like charging for school lunches when lunches are at no charge until the end of the year. That type of thing that would just be confusing for families if they were reviewing the handbook now based on, you know, other communications that have come out from the district. So does anyone else have concerns, questions, any open items that are left on the latest version of the handbooks?
I was going to say, just to note that let's call it disclaimer on the front, just to note that there was no way to go through. The approach here was that the handbook remains intact. All the normal routines are there. So when we shift back, the handbook is in full force. Rather than going through and trying to literally rewrite the handbook, there was a couple areas where Narissa noted the lunches, full day K isn't happening, the visitor section, right? Putting a caveat that we're trying to not have visitors, but in putting that caveat on the front, just trying to help people understand that there will absolutely be conflicts, but anything that changes policy or those major decisions to send folks to the Stay Connected page. So.
Paul Myatt?
So just a couple of things that I noticed going through on the middle school handbook. There are a few places where it refers to elementary procedures. For page numbers, would it be preferable to use the printed number on the page or the page number on the PDF, or does it matter?
Printed number on the page. The number in the handbook would be great. So like the number on the actual page in the handbook.
Right. So I noticed on page 17, it lists the elementary dismissal times and late times. So that is 11:40. And then it does have the middle school one after that. And then on page 36, it does something similar with the elementary conferences, listing conferences as December and March, and then going on after that to say that there's one conference in January. And then on page 21, not that this is as consequential, but when it's talking about field trips, it says specifically in the environmental camp. So, I mean, that's not as big a policy one as the other two to me, but obviously still just.
Great. Got him. Thank you.
In the high school handbook, I don't know if this is something to handle right now or not, but I noticed on page 23, in a reference to the superintendent, it specifically uses him. And not that we're looking to have anyone else in that seat right now, but probably may not want to have
What are you
that
saying,
gendered.
Paul?
Yeah, made sure I referenced that.
I appreciate that. So that was on page
And-
23.
23 of the high school handbook, yeah. That was about midway down.
Okay. Got it.
And then the only other two, these are questions I had that weren't necessarily wrong, just, they were from the elementary, so I'm using the NES numbers. On page 16, where it talks about the internet being a privilege, not a right, I didn't know if that lands us in any trouble this year, or if that's just specifically talking about access through the school buildings.
Yeah, I would say it's through the school buildings because we can't
Okay.
govern what happens at home, and it has
Right.
to remain. I would love it to remain. It needs to remain a privilege because if we
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
agree to the control, like that's a good question.
And then on page 30, it talks about telephone trees for emergency dismissal, and I didn't know if that was still happening or not. I know I have not heard of that, but I thought that if that's not happening, I didn't know if we wanted it out for policy.
That is definitely not telephone tree list. Look at that. Thank you.
And that was it for me.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Maureen?
Okay, I just had a couple things myself. For the high school handbook, I think it's page 6. Sorry, I was writing down the, but basically it's the district central office directory page.
Yeah.
At the bottom, the statement of purpose refers to the middle school, not the high school.
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
And then on the high school, I just have a question, and it's about the parking, which I think is page 10. So the students are no longer paying a parking fee,
Correct.
and it says that there's no per diem options, but so I guess my question is, if there are students that drive on occasion, they don't drive regularly, they may need a car,
Mhm.
a couple times during the year, so they'll drive, and you normally would pay per day. Is that not going to be allowed anymore?
No, I believe I'll have to find exactly what you're speaking, but that would have been just a holdover. So that's
Okay,
as long as
page
spaces
10.
are allowed. So it's
Yeah.
page.
Page 10 on the handbook. Just go back, sorry. Maybe I've given you the wrong page. Sorry.
Is it 11? I can
I'll
find
get to you in
it.
a second, Kaylee, so you can put your hand down.
I can find it. So it's a reference to.
It's a reference to no per diem being allowed, and it just made me wonder about the students that don't drive regularly, because I know there are some that in the past they would drive in and just pay the $1 a day.
Yep.
Okay. And then I noticed on the Newbury Elementary, under the category of around the school, there's no, basically for Pine Grove and for Salisbury, they both discuss reduced cost meal option, but Newbury does not have reduced cost meal option listed in that section of the handbook.
Under the school meals.
Well, the heading is around the school. So
Yeah,
school
that's,
meals
yeah. School meals is under around the school.
Right, and then in addition to school meals program, both Pine Grove and Salisbury have a reduced cost meals option section, but Newbury seems to be missing that section.
I just want to make sure because I'm seeing I'm seeing that.
A quick way to find, if you look at
So it's
the,
actually, it's just literally missing the heading. So on page 18, it says
Oh, it's
application
missing the
forms for
heading,
free and
right, 'cause
reduced
I'm-
lunch. So it's just
Yeah,
a bold heading.
okay. And and it's not in the contents page too, because that's how it kind of jumped out at me that it was missing there. And then the last thing, also for the elementary schools, so under the policy, school district and policies and procedures, both Salisbury and Newbury have student health services and requirements committee policy, but Pine Grove does not have it.
There was no health services and
Requirements / committee policy, KLC.
all right.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kaylee, did you have some?
I have a few. I have to be completely honest that I only managed to get through the high school one during my study today, but I think the parking per diem one, the way it's written, it could be argued that that could be left in there just so that it would make sure that you had to have all of the cars on record that the student would be driving, as opposed to just being able to drive for that day. Or that's the way it read to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look at, I didn't find it yet, but I'll take a look at that.
And then I know Paul Mayette had mentioned it about the middle school one, but the high school also talks about the homework durations in the elementary school and the middle school. So I don't know if that's just for a comparison as like for different age groups, or if it's
So meaning it references in the
no,
homework
it
section,
fully outlines
but it's just saying in the high school, it talks about,
in the high school one.
it talks about, yeah.
And then there was one more that I can't find it fully. Yep, I just found it. So there was a part about field trips. There's a separate part for field trips during the school day. Like it goes about field trip committee policy and then field trips during the school day. But there's nothing for long-standing school trips lasting more than a single day. And I know a lot of the clubs will go to competitions that last more than that, so.
I know we have policies
I
on
wasn't
that.
sure
in
if
the
that was something that
policy
we should have on
manual.
there.
I think what happens is
Oh, and-
they only did a small portion of certain policies that went in the handbook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the policy section in the back, it's
Yep.
the IJOA. Is that what you're referring to, Kaylee? Because it says the supervision.
It is page, I'm not sure what section is. It's page 68, which so it's
Yeah.
probably in
Yep. So it's
with all the policies, but
yeah.
it was
So
just
the one
weird
just
reading through it
above
that it had like all of the. Yep. It was
Yep.
more that it just the way it read, it seemed weird that it was the policy outline and it goes through for like the requests and the approvals, but it only had it. I don't know, the way it read to me, if a student was trying to look it up quickly, it
Mhm.
just wasn't. It was kind of confusing that it wasn't included.
Okay, so yeah, so not to say nothing against policies or school committees, but policies aren't necessarily always written to be most easily read. But if you look just above that, it says student field trips, committee policy, IJOA, and that's any trips. And then that final paragraph says all out-of-state and or extended overnight trips, excursions. And then the field trips during the day, they're specific targeting to make sure planned for, prepared for, and followed in order to bring the school and community closer together. So it's specifically speaking to the field trips during the day and speaking against ones that necessarily might exclude
Okay.
individuals.
Sorry about that.
No, it's a good question. Good questions.
think that was it. Maureen? She's found more.
So Brian, I found what I was talking to. It's the top of page 10, the getting to and from school.
I'm
It
sorry,
talks about-
which school?
I'm sorry, this is high school parking.
The high school parking. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And it's at the top. It just talks about no student is allowed to park on campus without reserving the space and doing all those requirements. And there are no per diem options. So that's what I was referring to earlier.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Other comments or questions from the committee? Erin?
So on both the high school and the middle school, I like how they included some language on what the hybrid remote schedules look like. I was wondering if we were going to update the elementary ones to include that type of information,
We can.
because it's good to see the schedule breakdown. Like I know what my sixth grader's doing. I don't know if you have the same setup for some of the other ones, or at least telling the parents where to go to find what their student schedule is going to look like for the day, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And with that, on the middle school and the high school handbook, I'm looking, the middle school, I believe it's page 14, and on the high school, it's page 15. It starts talking about Monday will always be remote. That last sentence there, students will still be expected to be engaging in asynchronous learning during this time. I'm not sure if it's really clear that on the days that are not half days, that they will be doing asynchronous work for the rest of the day,
So
unless I'm confused on what it is.
which school again? I'm sorry.
So this is in both the middle school and the high school. In the middle school, it's on page 14. In the high school, it's on page 15. And it's that asterisk paragraph that talks about Mondays. Mondays will always be remote, even in the hybrid. But the last sentence there says students will still be expected to be engaging in asynchronous learning during this time. I think it means, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's 6 days right now that we have half-day PD days. And those are half days, so the class time will end at 10:42. On other Mondays, class time ends at 12:15, but I believe they're still supposed to be doing asynchronous learning afterwards. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So the day ends at 2:13 every day. Yes.
So that's not really clear. So students will still be expected to be engaging in asynchronous learning during this time, but it's kind of split between a half day sentence and then into
Yep.
And it's on both of them, I think. But even having some of this information in the middle, in the elementary school booklets too, would be good.
Absolutely.
Then on the middle school handbook, back on the top, when you're doing I believe it's the middle school. Give me a second, sorry. So the last sentence, as we move into the uncertainties of 2021, do you need the apostrophe in front of both of those? Because it's referring to 2020 and 21, or can you just list it out as 20 and 21?
So where are we on page 1 in the letter?
It's in the letter. It's after the table of contents.
Yep.
The-
So the final, as we move into the uncertainties of the 2021 school year, we are optimistic. Right? Is that the sentence?
Yeah.
And what was the question?
Do you need the apostrophes before 20 and 21, referencing that it's shortened?
Gotcha. Gotcha. So it needs to be apostrophes or just 2020, 2021.
Yeah. And I'm going to pass it to somebody else because I think everybody else covered some of the ones that I'd seen. Oh, sorry, before I say that, we had talked about that school year calendar. I know we said that we weren't going to change it for a little while, but are we going to
The next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
And yes, that any changes will be updated in these.
Okay, done. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Paul Wyatt was next, and then Kaylee, I'll come to you afterward.
Yep, sorry, I just missed one that I saw. And this goes across all of them. On the high school, it's page 38. Under cancellations, in terms of methods of communication, it didn't mention Twitter. I know that's a favorite. I didn't know if that was worth adding.
Under cancellations. Gotcha.
Got it, Paul Wyatt? Good to go. Thank you. Kaylee?
I just wanted to build a little bit off of Erin's point when it came to the wording on the asynchronous. Having like read through the documents and even being handed the way that the schedule was supposed to look and all of the videos that we had, it was definitely a culture shock for a lot of people today in the high school that we found out that we will still be having, during that time, we thought it was going to be time to work on all of the assignments that we were given during the time, that morning block. We all found out that we have gyms in the afternoon and a bunch of other classes that we thought that it was basically free from. So the wording of it was definitely confusing for a lot of people.
So that same asterisk, is that what you mean? That was
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, the way that the asynchronous is worded is.
Gotcha.
All right. Any other feedback on the handbooks? All right. So I would like to approve these tonight, Brian, so that we can get them out to families, but I want to do it in such a way that you can make changes to it and they can still go out. I would like them to come back to the committee just for one final perusal after all that happens. But here's the motion that I think I'd like to make. I'd like a motion to approve the student handbooks to include changes to be made by administration in response to the school committee feedback voiced tonight. Does that work?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing of substance that I'm going to go and change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a lot of clarifications, adding Twitter, clarifying language that wasn't clear. So yes, if I was going to go and change some kind of major policy, I wouldn't want them going out before you reapprove them, but I don't think there's anything here that's all we're doing is going to clarify policy.
Okay. Can I get the motion then, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Maureen. Can I get a
I'll
second?
second it.
Is that Linda? Seconding? Yes, I
Yes.
think so. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Okay. I need a roll call vote, please. Erin?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Goldner?
Yes.
Thank you. Maureen?
Yes.
Thank you. Caitlin?
Yes.
Thank you. Paulise?
Yes.
Thank you. Linda?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Mayette?
Yes.
Thank you. Tina is still not on, and I'm yes as well. So that's a 8-0 unanimous vote. And that will move us on to the 2020-2021 school year calendar. Are you taking this, Brian? Is Kim?
Sure. Yep, I'll take it. So it's so this is what you have in your packet is the same calendar that you approved. I'm not even going to guess on a date, August, some time frame. The only reason this is coming back to you is as we went through the process, and we're still in negotiations, it's not buttoned up, but now that we have the somewhat tentatively agreed concept of those Monday afternoons where it'll be asynchronous PE, and we were talking about the language that needs to be clarified in the handbooks, that asynchronous time for students that will become collaboration time for teachers wasn't on the table. So we had loaded all those PD days to the front half of the year. In our most recent discussion and negotiations, it actually makes more sense now to space them back out so that we have them basically the first Monday of every month. There is no what do you call it, significant impact, because that is a remote day anyway. So families have already had to prepare for that day. If it was going to be a day that would potentially keep kids out when they would have been in school, obviously that would be a much more significant impact. So some impact, but Ultimately, what it does is it takes those 6 half days, 2 in October, 3 in November, and 1 in December, and we would propose moving them out to the first Monday of each month. And we hadn't talked exact specific dates other than bring it back for a discussion. Yeah, so that's where we're at with that. I certainly think it makes sense. I think it makes sense, as it actually feeds those full PD days that everyone in the building gets to work together. Unlike collaboration, that it's more coverage and piecing coverage and opportunities to collaborate together. So.
All right, thank you. Questions from the committee on this? Kaylee?
I hadn't noticed it until I was updating my school calendar, but the calendar that was set further back before the later August one, the school had election day off, but in the new calendar it isn't.
It is
Or
not.
that's what I found on my end. I don't know if I entered it in incorrectly or if it was something that came up. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, we do not. So we originally approved the calendar last spring. Was that last spring? Was that even before COVID, right? I think we were doing that probably the last meeting along with the budget. Yes, we had planned to have election day off as a PD day.
Oh.
That all changed, and that was one of the professional days that is still floating into the year. So election day is not off.
Okay.
Yeah. So the one that's included in tonight's agenda is the way it was approved.
Yep.
And that was the final version. I know last week we were talking about there was different versions. One meeting I tried to not send them out too far, but there were 3 different versions and they escaped, and some people had versions that were not real versions and discussed versions, not voted versions. So.
And then I had one more. I know that we're talking about furthering them out again, but the way that it sits right now, there's only one full normal Monday in October, and we have a half day, a day off, and then a half day. So that was just interesting to note. I wasn't sure how the committee felt about that.
So what we're actually taking away is taking away the 19th. So what the proposal is actually just leaving the first.
Taking those ones. Yep.
So take the 19th, the 16th, and the 30th of November, and then move the 14th to the 7th, and then put the other 3. I mean, we can talk about January, or if we want to say February, March, April, rather than leave January alone, as it's already a choppy month.
Yeah, I guess, I feel like this is unfortunately still going to be fluid. I want to get to a point where we have a solid one that's not going to change for a while to send out to families, because I feel like we've had many iterations already. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like if we need some flexibility during the school year, not knowing what's coming. I think that 3 days that we've sort of held in reserve gives us some of that. But I'd be hesitant to change even further, not knowing what could be coming.
Change further beyond
what's here on paper right now. Yeah.
So Narissa, I think he means those 3 days for February, March, and April would be October 19, November 16, and November 30, just swapping those over and still leaving the 3 floaters.
Yeah. I'm just saying I'd be hesitant to make additional changes, too many changes beyond that. I want something that we can settle on now, right? Those 3 days can sort of come and go. We need some flexibility, but I want to settle in something tonight where hopefully it's going to be the calendar for a good bit of time, longer than
honestly,
90 days.
This discussion obviously came out of negotiations, but this is actually reverting quite honestly back to where we were. It's just shifted it because we had moved them to Wednesdays. So it's still keeping them on Mondays.
Right.
So I don't see a need to shift this again. I would anticipate then that the only other change would be that bottom left green box where it talks about those 3 additional PD days that are not scheduled. And so one of them, again, if we shifted, if you vote on the 30th to shift, we've said the 9th would be a PD day, right? And so that would be one of them.
Yeah.
And if there was another transition, if we transition remote, I mean, that's the theory of how to use those is if we're making a transition, not just adding a PD day for the sake of it.
So the 9th would be the day off? I thought it was the 12th if we move on the 13th.
12th is Columbus Day.
Oh, the 12th is Columbus Day. Oh, that's right. Okay, I remember that now. Okay.
Wait, can I just ask, so you're saying, Brian, that you would shift that, what would be on the 9th? Isn't that a,
It would be a PD day.
The 3 PD day, the bottom left-hand green that notes those 3 PD days that are not
Yeah.
scheduled in the calendar right now. We've
Yeah.
said we're going to hold on to those for the transition periods, whether we're
right, okay, right, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
understand now.
So October 9th isn't listed as anything right now. It would be one of those. But again, to just confirm one more time, the 170th, not 180th, the 170th day is the 16th of June, and the 175th, we have to schedule the 180th and 185th day. This year it's 170, 175. That assumes those 3 PD days in that total. So it could be that if we didn't use them, that the 14th, 15th, and 16th are PD days and school actually ends on Friday the 11th. So the 3 days are added in just to net, to show realistic. But it did get confirmation again today that that snow days should be non-existent this year because they can be remote. I was going out on a limb, but it sounds like the limb is getting thicker.
So is there any preference on the committee's part to change those days farther from where it exists in the paper document that you have in front of you right now? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve an adjustment to the placement of early release for PD days as reviewed and agreed by the committee? Please.
I'll make
Aye.
a motion.
I'll
Linda?
second.
Can I ask a
And
question?
Maureen's the second. Yeah, go ahead.
You didn't review and agree anything yet?
Oh, I thought we agreed on the change. No?
I don't know. I didn't hear that. Maybe I wasn't. So I had floated out the idea of the 5th, the 5th of October, the 2nd of November, the 7th of December. And then do you want to push the other 3 out to January, February, March? Or to February, March, and April?
Sorry, I'm just trying to find that. I keep having to switch between, since I only have one computer, I keep having to switch between the main agenda. Should just set up a second one.
Can I make a suggestion that we push them to February, March, April? And I don't know who said it before, but January, we're coming back hopefully from Christmas break. And, we would start right out with a PD day.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that would make sense.
I agree. I think it should be February, March, and April. I think that makes the
Okay.
most sense.
Almost there.
The only thing I worry about is the MCAS, if they have it this year. They have not released those dates yet.
Bite your tongue, Kim.
But I'm what?
I said bite your tongue.
I know. I hate to be the bear, but I'm always hesitant to, like, when we start to plan those dates, it's not a big deal, but
Yeah.
So would that be a conflict with the testing dates?
Well, we have a testing window, so we usually try to avoid having any type of release days around when the testing begins, just because I don't know what the window will look like. I don't even know what the test will look like. So
Yeah, as of today,
I'm
there's
just
no
putting it out
U.S., there's no federal waiver. The commissioner signaled his interest in the discussion. There's, I know, legislation proposing a release from MCAS through 2023 being filed, but that relies on a federal waiver. But we went back, we had half days originally we originally had half PD days scheduled over those months.
Mm-hmm.
So it's no different. We had them on Fridays, then we had them on Wednesdays. Now we're putting them back on Mondays. So we'd like to be able to work
No,
around
I
that.
was just saying, like, yeah, I have no idea what I mean, we have to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
I think February, March, and April ends up being less disruptive.
Come back to this, I mean, I guess we have to change it now. My preference is to really go with something we can stick with, and I certainly hope we can stick with that. I would hate to see that we have to change it again if MCAS conflicts start to become an issue.
But we have windows. So, I mean, we always schedule around the half PD days, so there's no reason we wouldn't be able to schedule around those again.
Okay. All right. So we're looking at, just now that I have the calendar page actually in front of me from the packet rather than looking at the agenda as I'm running the meeting, we're looking at February 8th, right?
So when we start in October, so we're talking October 5th?
Yep.
November 2nd, December 7th, February 1st, March 1st, April 5th.
Okay.
So that's 6, and then there's still 2. There's still 2 in May, but those end up being.
Okay. Still 2 in May. Okay. All right. I'm seeing all this.
Those
now.
haven't
So-
moved since the beginning of time.
Right. Exactly. All right. So can I get a motion to approve an adjustment to the placement of early release for PD days as October 5th, November 2nd, December 7th, February 1st, March 1st, and April 5th, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Linda. Maureen, that makes it easy. I don't even have to rewrite my motions in seconds. Any discussion on that? All right, I need a roll call vote, please. Erin?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Goldner?
Yes.
Maureen?
Yes.
Caitlin?
Yes.
Paulise?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Paul Mayette?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. All right. Thank you. So Brian, I would suggest, I mean, I guess we can talk about this tomorrow, but buddying this up with other communication, because I feel like there's a ton of communication coming out from the district right now, and I would prefer that this not go as a standalone item out to families, simply so that we can, you know, diminish as much as possible the flood of emails that everyone's getting so that this does not get missed.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Moving on to the subcommittee reports and action items. Policy and advocacy, Linda?
We did not meet. We're gonna continue next month.
All right. Thank you. Finance does not currently have a chair. That subcommittee will have to choose a new chair when it meets. That will be September 30th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. So that's a new meeting time for finance. And personnel and negotiations, we're going to go into executive session in a bit, but I didn't know if there's anything that you wanted to update on in public session, Paul. You're muted.
That's okay. I said not really.
Okay, that's fine. I know we're still, it's pretty much you just go into executive session in subcommittee anyway, so I imagine there's not a lot to discuss. All right, all that said, our next meeting is scheduled for September 30th at 7 p.m. So we will be not having a meeting next week. So erase that from your minds and your calendars, and hopefully you can try and take a week off. We do have DCC tomorrow night. So that is the 17th, and it will be at 6:30 here on Zoom, and that agenda is already posted with the link. So all that said, can I get a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of planning for negotiations with union personnel, not to return to open session, please?
Hey, Narissa, I will make that motion in a second, but
Yeah.
I'd like to, I threw a question to Brian that I'd like to throw to the committee. Brian, do you have anyone tracking districts going from hybrid to remote? So we have some facts to review on September 30th, 2020.
You've thrown that question to me?
Do you have anyone tracking districts? Who
No, I heard it. I'm
have
sorry.
Going from hybrid to remote, so we can have some facts to review on September 30th. And if not, can you?
We do not. We certainly can. I guess that's a question is, so are you saying you want to know what all other districts are doing, and that's a factor in what you'll choose on the 30th?
Not what all of the districts are doing, but just districts that have gone from hybrid to remote for one reason or another.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
We can give that
Yeah.
some, I think that would be an important metric, although it's not, you know.
Most of those are news stories, so.
I was going to say,
So I
yeah,
don't think.
I could probably get that. I know DESE's tracking that, so I probably could get that from them. There's no other reporting. So, I mean, unless you hear about it in the news, right? Attleboro, Lincoln Sudbury, Dover Sherborne, based on diagnoses or, 100 student parties. So there's certainly been those key ones. There's no one reporting that. So we would have to just literally reach out to districts to figure that out. But I probably can get some information from DESE, because we all had to do an initial plan, and then last week we had to submit an update on anything that's changed. So they would likely be able to give me an update on districts that did that. I can check on that. Yeah.
Okay. Besides that, make a motion to go into executive session, not to return to open.
All right, thank you.
I'll second that.
Maureen, thank you. Any discussion on that? All right, I need a roll call vote, please. Erin?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Goldner?
Yes.
Thank you. Maureen?
Yes.
Thank you. Caitlin?
Yes.
Thank you. Paulise?
Yes.
Thank you. Linda?
Yes.
Thank you. Paul Mayette?
Yes.
Thank you. And I am a yes as well. So I appreciate your time tonight, and we'll head into executive session to next meet in open session on September 30th.
All right.